Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. Audit and Control meeting, August 22nd. If everybody is, this morning we do have a quorum. We're going to have to use Mr. Shagnon this morning to represent the committee. Thank you. If everybody's had an opportunity to approve the minutes, or to read the minutes, I'd accept a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. Is anyone here this morning to speak to the privilege of the floor? If so, please come down front. Not seeing anyone, we'll move into our proposed resolutions. First resolution in front of us today is to renew and amend Resolution 129-24, North Shutuck Lake Sewer District Plant Capacity Study Grant Authorization and Appropriation of Local Match.
Good morning, Matt Olbeck, Director, North Shutuck Lake Sewer District. This is a renew and amend of resolution number 185-23. When we sent it to EFC, the total study cost didn't reflect $60,000. We had $50,000 in there. So it's just changing. So the total cost is $60,000. The local match still stays the same as $10,000. It's just so we could get the full $50,000 grant money from EFC.
Is this a change, or was it an increase, or was it a mistake?
It was a mistake.
Okay. Questions, comments? Not seeing any. We'll, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next proposed resolution is authorize agreements with municipalities for landfill use.
Good morning, Aaron Gustafson, Deputy Director of Public Facilities Environment. So this resolution is more of a formality because we already have a local law that's dictated in this resolution, 1395, that gives us the right to enter into some gives the county executive the right to enter into contract. This is specifically for out-of-county waste because we already have a resolution 42-2000, which is also referenced in this, to enter into contract with in-county municipalities. This came about because we recently received an RFP, and knowing the state of the state's waste stream, we expect to see more opportunities to enter into contracts with out-of-county waste stream municipalities. So to make it more appealing to municipal law, we decided rather than just a local law to actually run a resolution as well. And this resolution will just give the county executive the right to enter into contract based on pricing I set using the legislative approved pricing at the current time of the contract. So all parties are still involved. It's very similar to the resolution reading in 42-2000. And if you see at the end in the resolved, we have several fail-safes, 3-year term limits, 90-day cancellation clauses, stuff to protect the county in the contract.
Questions, comments for Aaron? Aaron, how does the commission feel about the possibility of bringing in?
Majority positive. There was only one person opposed out of the commission, so everyone else was for it.
General purpose for bringing in the outside flow?
So, like I told the public facilities, I'd like to be able to actually report a positive budget year to year. The last several years have been negative. We've managed to pull off positive year-end balances, of course, but those are one-offs. This would be guaranteed waste if we entered in a contract that would allow us to budget with that revenue that would actually give us a positive budget. It'd be a nice source of funding to help with a lot of the projects we have on the docket and for future projects without raising local costs to our residents and users of the landfill.
No, at the end of the day, it's a way to help offset the costs up there for our local residents, which is important, and
Correct.
keep the costs low. So,
Yep, it's completely non-taxpayer or residential revenue that would benefit their use of the facilities.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to compliment Aaron on his initiative to formalize a practice that had been done, if you will, informally in the past. And so now, what we're going to be doing going forward is formalized and approved by the legislature. So thank you for that, Aaron.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Next, proposed resolution number 3 is amend the 2024 capital project account parks.
Good morning, Tim Carr, Director of Public Facilities. This here is just a transfer. We had a four-wheeler that was stolen on Memorial Day weekend out of Faulkner location, and just a transfer for the insurance funds that we have received for $8,574.
Was the four-wheeler inside, outside?
It was inside the building. Yeah, we had several hand tools, chainsaws, some power tools, and things that were stolen. We have recovered a couple things. The Ellicott Police Department's still looking into it, but that was a piece of equipment that we had to get replaced, so. And we are looking into some fencing and some cameras now for the Faulkner location, so that will be coming too.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's something that you hope that you never need to utilize them and everything is safe, but it's not the case.
Right.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next, proposed resolution number 4 is setting the salary for land surveyor.
Okay. This is basically currently the engineering titles in the engineering division with one position for a land surveyor. And this is to use experience of one of our employees that has over 18 years of experience and is licensed. That gives us the increased capability, saves us expenses so that we can do a lot of these projects in-house ourselves. And with the recent departure of one of our employees, a 17-year employee that has just left us for the private sector, it's going to help to fulfill some of his duties. And the gentleman that we have currently in-house that's going to take on this position is also very enthusiastic and excited about working with the Parks Department and helping there for all of our issues and situations in the Parks Department with our forests and our lands that we take care of. So basically, it's a new position, but we are not backfilling his position, so it's basically just a title change.
Is there enough, there enough work to have him considered a surveyor full-time?
I wouldn't say totally full-time, but there is a lot of work when it comes to, bridges, pipe replacements, our parks. This year we had the Ag Center, we had some forest things, probably between $15,000 and $20,000 close to savings that we could have seen had we have had his ability, if we'd have done it this year.
What was the grade for the position he's vacating?
The grade was that he's vacating is an 18, and it's going to a 23, and I think the change is roughly just under $2 an hour increase.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, resolution number 5 is the Just 2024 Budget, Building and Grounds Operating Budget, Lucas Avenue.
Morning.
Morning.
Josh Rothwell, Assistant Deputy Director, Public Facilities, Buildings and Grounds. We've pulled this resolution from today's meeting as I met with Sam and Blake in finance, and it turns out the number that is on this resolution is not correct. There was a little bit of confusion with how it was, the number was equated with how the contract was written compared to build outs. The department chose to do the build out paybacks within a 1-year time frame. So the number is significantly higher than what it's supposed to be. So we're just gonna do a new resolution next month with the correct number on it. The number that needs to be added to that account is significantly lower because the build outs are now paid for. So moving forward into next month's meetings, we'll have a new resolution for that.
Okay. We can withdraw, I believe it has already been withdrawn from other committees.
Yeah, we withdrew from the facilities meeting as well.
I don't think we need any issue of motion to withdraw, so.
If we take no action, it won't
No
go before
action
the
today.
legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll move to the next resolution, number 6, which is proposed resolution, adjust budget for Mayville parking lot reconstruction.
This resolution is just requesting to, I'll back up. Back in 2019, we'd submitted a capital project in the amount of $60,000 to put towards our chiller project, which is our HVAC equipment, which was approved. That project was 1620-25169, and then we went into our COVID stuff and we chose to not do any capital projects in 2020, so that money rolled into 2021. Well, in the meantime of that time passing, we had some significant failures with one of the chillers, which controls our air conditioning for the campus in Mayville. So we ended up going and redoing another project, which was a total replacement of the chiller that was broken. So we still have that $60,000 in that capital project that is sitting idle right now. So the request here is to take that $60,000 and switch it into our other project that we have going on, which came in significantly overbid, which is replacing the sidewalks here on the Mayville campus, and includes some paving. With those additional $60,000, we'll be able to complete the sidewalk project and the curbs, along with doing some in-house paving using DPF forces.
Questions, comments? I think it's a good use of the funds that have been sitting idle. Are you aware of any other projects that are sitting idle like that, that there's monies that could be utilized in other places?
No, that was it. And the reason we kept just going, transferring into the next year was because at the time then the first year it was approved in 2019 for 2020, and then we didn't do projects, and then we got to 21. We had all these mechanical breakdowns with the equipment, and we're trying to decide what was going to be the best way, either total replacement or come ask for more money and try to rehabilitate a 20-some-year-old piece of equipment. So then we had our contractors had come in and given us a few different proposal options. If you fixed this, it's going to cost this much, and I don't remember those numbers off the top of my head years ago, but At that time, our county engineers and myself looked into it, and we decided it was gonna be more beneficial, more energy efficient and everything to do a total replacement on the unit. So that was where we turned those funds into more money, and the other project just kind of sat. Initially, we thought we could take that 60,000 and use it, because we have 2 chillers. We could use it to do some upgrades and, make the older chiller that we're keeping as a backup better. But the parts that we needed to update the older chiller, we took off the one we replaced. So until all that happened and it got tore apart or whatever, that's why we kept pushing the money on.
Sure. Sounds good. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And
Opposed? Carried.
that sidewalk project will be starting up here probably after the Labor Day. We talked with the contractor, and we're gonna have a meeting with him next week. The columns should be finishing up here by the end of this week, first of next week also. So we were kind of waiting for the columns to get done to start that sidewalk project, so that's the kind of the schedule.
We didn't want the equipment that they're using, the lifts, et cetera, to do the column work to be driving on new cement. So we've kind of been pushing the project to fall, the sidewalk replacement project. And also, I'd stated in the facilities meeting, after our job meeting, we get a schedule established. We're going to be working with the county executive's office to get those press releases out, because at some point we're going to have to change the entrance to the DMV, to the Board of Elections door, et cetera, as the construction, the sidewalk, and that is being replaced in front of the main entrance. So
Is there any heat underneath those sidewalks?
no.
A lot of places are going to that sort of system because it saves, it's costly to install up front, but at the end of the day, you save the cost in maintenance and salt, and also the trucking and the salt into the interior of the building, which then creates, you gotta get rid of it inside. So at the end of the day, it's a savior for a few different reasons, but.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Proposed resolution number 7 is amend the 2024 budget for North County Industrial Water District Number 1.
Mr. Chairman, I believe there's a proposed amendment to this amendment.
Okay.
Matt Olbeck, Director, North Stock Lake Sewer District, here for Brian Pearl, Director of the North County Industrial Water District. The water tower project, when it was bid, it came in much higher than the engineers expected. But the tower needed to be rehabbed, so they elected to go ahead with the project. They got some ARPA money, they've got some grant money, I believe. But in the end, it was still over budget, and we did a fund balance transfer, depleting the fund balance in 2023. That was $448,115. Still short, because when we did that, the engineering cost was kind of overlooked. So basically, the engineers didn't get paid, and the amendment to the amendment is a good thing, I guess. Originally, we were thinking 114,000, and now, after crunching the numbers and John's help, and the amount to be expended from fund balance now would be $50,065 to close out this project.
So the amendment that you're looking to do to this resolution is to adjust the money lines in both accounts to $50,065?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we amend the proposed resolution as indicated.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Questions, comments on the motion, or the resolution as amended?
Mr. Chairman, I would just elaborate on what Aaron, or what Matt so eloquently described. When this came to light in 2023, we utilized the entire fund balance of the industrial water district for this project. And the budget director did an evaluation and predicted that the fund balance for the water district, when the 2023 budget year was concluded, would be restored. There would be additional funds available. So we put that off until the books were closed and audited. And so now her prediction was absolutely correct. There is available fund balance to now pay off this entire project.
Good. Just a comment I have is, all the boards and things that I've served on over the years, I think maybe 1 out of 10 projects that I've ever seen come in under budget. All the rest, the 9, come in over budget for some reason. I don't know why that happens. But as we've sat here this morning, I don't think we've had the one yet that come in under budget. So.
Every sewer project does, right, Matt?
Hopefully. Hopefully you'll see that one soon.
Well, there's still hope. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Proposed resolution number 8 is the acceptance of FAA funds to purchase ARFF testing equipment at the Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport.
Good morning, Shannon Fisher, Manager of Airports, and I'm here to ask to accept the FAA funds that we put in an application for at the beginning of the year for an aft testing equipment for our fire truck. Basically, it recirculates the foam into the truck instead of testing it on the ground. And as you can see from the numbers, there's no local share. When we originally did this, we anticipated having a local share, and when they awarded it, they gave it to us 100% federally funded. So that's a good thing. And now we're hoping to accept that.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
We like no local share. Shannon. Good work.
It's important to have the equipment up to date and correct, because when those emergencies arise, everything's working as it should. So
Absolutely.
routine maintenance and updating and correcting is essential.
Yep.
So,
And this was a requirement from our FAA inspection when they come out every year, something that they're going to, and it was kind of in lieu of a new truck. They gave us this option for right now, and then hopefully in the near future we'll be able to apply for a new truck and be awarded that, but this is their fix right now.
and what's the price tag of a new truck?
Right, a lot.
Yeah.
$800,000 compared
Yeah.
to 23.
Sure. Yep. It's a price of the equipments that are needed, continue to just rise and rise. So
Yeah.
what is the date of the current vehicle?
I think it's 2003. We're just over 20 years old.
It's not terrible, but
Nope.
yeah,
Definitely about to exceed its useful life, though.
sure. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. We have a majority, right?
I believe that we do not have a majority on this, the 2-to-1, because it's a quorum of the full committee, is my understanding would be required. Did pass public facilities, however, so it will be on Wednesday's agenda based on that committee.
Resolution Fails this committee. Thank you.
Mhm.
Next proposed resolution, number 9, which there has been an amendment, and that amended version is in front of us all. It's titled, Accept FAA and New York State DOT funds to rehabilitate runway 1331 pavement and reconstruct runway 1331 lighting and signage design.
So this is the same thing, you know, we do our 5-year airport capital improvement plan, and we are at the point where our crosswind runway has almost exceeded its useful life. So 2 years ago, we were able to rehab our primary runway. We asked to be able to apply to rehab our crosswind runway. You guys awarded us that. We were just awarded the funds. This one's anticipating the award funds, but because the time frame doesn't fall where we would be able to have a meeting again, I have it on here so we didn't have to call an emergency session. So I was told the FAA, this would be our next award coming within the next week. And we get less than 30 days to sign these. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 days that they need it back in. So I have this on here. It's for our crosswind runway to rehab and all new LED lighting and signage.
So all the wiring and all that stuff can still all be utilized in the switching and functioning of that way? It's just the actual fixtures?
It depends. It depends on how old it is once they get in there. Like on the primary runway, they actually took out everything and redid all the wiring, and likely they'll do that for this one too with how old that is. So it just, I mean, it depends on when they get in there. But on a project like this with a rehab, they usually take out everything and make it all new.
Yep. Is it including, you know, it's not in here, but painting and things to that nature, that's all directional things for the pilots to be able to know where they're at and what they're doing? And
Yep, so all the markings, pavement markings, everything that's, for example, Lakeshore Paving did our primary runway. They're required to get the stencils that match up with the FAA requirements to put the numbers, which I think they're 150 feet in length, and the painting is up to FAA standards. So all the markings and signage is done during that project.
Good.
Mhm.
There's, you know, over the years, there's certain regulations that have been changed and updated over the years, primarily because of accidents. You know, runways that aren't visible enough with lighting, proper lighting, or markings that are faded and not visible, and that leads to some sort of accident. So
Yeah.
all this is really necessary, but also hopefully preventative for something to not happen.
Sure, we get, you know, FAA comes out and does an inspection every year, and we do daily inspections to make sure our markings are up to their standards. And if, when they come out for our inspection, we have a discrepancy on markings, they could not award us funding. So this year we had 0 discrepancies on our runway or airfield in any kind. It was just in our books. So we have 30 days to update our what's called our airport certification manual. But at the time, our pavement was great. We will be, because of the accident a couple weeks ago, we'll be rehabbing 1,500 feet of our primary runway that we just did 2 years ago, because basically the FAA requires that we get a 20-year useful life out of it. So that will be an emergency project, but that is kind of covered under insurance and whatnot. But so we will have to do that. But our markings there was fire and explosion on the runway, and our markings aren't as great as they were, and the structurability of the pavement, we're not really sure with how much fuel was spilled and oil, like if that will actually make it for 18 years. So
Okay.
totally different project, but yes, kind of all goes together.
Sure.
We make sure it's all inspected and up to safety standards.
Good. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution failed. Next resolution, number 10. Proposed resolution is authorized public hearing on Office 46 lease agreement at the Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport.
Yep, so this is just Chase Aviation. He's a aircraft broker, and he's been a great tenant for the last, I think, 4 years, since 2020. And we're just trying to renew his lease. He would like to do 3 years on this one, so we're proposing the lease for 3 years. And we did propose an increase of $75 a month because we were going to give him another portion of our garage for storage for him. So yeah, but just hoping for this to be authorized to have him in the terminal for another 3 years.
Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. And
Still here.
proposed resolution number 11 is accept FAA and New York State DOT funds to reconstruct terminal building design. And I also believe that this one has been amended.
Yes.
In which there is an amended version in front of us today.
Yep, we amended the total project cost was less than what we had in the original one. So this is another one of our 5-year airport capital improvement plans, was to reconstruct the terminal building, and this would be the design for it. We were awarded $1 million for to reconstruct our terminal building on the state side of things, but they only allow those funds to go towards revenue producing areas of the terminal. So this is the federal funding that would offset that to be able to do the entire terminal over time. So this is the design portion of that, which, considering they have already awarded us this design portion, is a very good indication that they will award us the construction dollars as well. They don't like to give out design money if they're not going to give us the construction money later on. So that we would see in about 2 years. Actually, probably next year.
Questions, comments? Which company is doing the design?
CNS, they're our aviation consultants for Jamestown. Passero does our design for Dunkirk.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion fails.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 12 is transfer American Rescue Plan Act spending plan budget from the 2023 to 2024 county clerk's office.
Good morning, Sam Zafoto, Deputy Director of Finance. This is just to properly fund ARPA Project 41. At the time we did Resolution 9924 earlier this year, funding the projects and the operating budgets, there had been an error with ARPA Project 41 in December. $105,000 invoice was improperly charged to this project. Working with the first deputy, we were able to correct this properly in 2023, so this is just funding this project in full, as it would have been if that correction had been made before that resolution.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Thank you to Sam for his diligent work in uncovering this mistake.
And it went to, where's it being now?
Well, what the error was is in October of last year, Resolution 26523 moved some money from the Records Department to County Clerk, which tied into the ARPA project. That is the invoice that was improperly coded to ARPA Project 41. And then obviously, as we caught it, we made that correction. So it's really the error was, it's kind of the same work that was being done. It was just an error of what was recorded at the end of the year.
Sure, and where it was being paid from. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Proposed resolution number 13 is amend Chautauqua County purchasing policy.
Yep, this is the annual adoption and amendment to the county purchasing policy, with the loan amendment being the rate increase on the credit card limit for the purchasing department staff going from $1,000 to $2,000 per transaction. So that's the only change, and this would be the annual adoption as well.
making that change has probably become more of a necessity because
I would
that
agree,
doesn't
as someone
cost
who's,
much to,
in my past, done a lot of purchasing, especially for public facilities, that $1,000 limit, especially when construction season becomes kind of a burden at times.
yeah, just an extra step to take that. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not gonna be overseen, and originally, but it will be seen eventually, and if there is a discrepancy later, it will still get caught if it's something that should,
Yeah, and this would just be the purchasing staff themselves
Sure.
as well.
yeah. Any questions?
Wanted to add to that, if I could. Kitty Crow, Director of Finance. Just to add on, the reason for the change too is since we've centralized our purchasing office, you know, the transactions that the purchasing staff themselves make are in greater amounts, you know, because they're doing more bulk purchases, and that this will allow them to just more efficiently, because otherwise if they do come up to the limit, then they have to call somebody else to have their limit temporarily changed to make the purchase. And we also try to maximize our credit card purchases because we do get rebates on our credit card. So the more we can pay by our credit card is of benefit to the county.
Do you find that that last thing is starting to change a little? You know, more companies are starting to charge for the use of cards, and it overweighs the actual reward that you're receiving. So if you're receiving like a 2% cash back or something, or reward, but it's costing 2.5% or something, have you noticed that?
Well, these are kind of independent, like our, whether this is separate from, when somebody wants to pay us with a credit card, so they're kind of two different things. So this is just when we want to purchase something and pay by credit card. So a lot of these purchases might be, you know, online payments when we're procuring goods, and we're just purchasing off of a website. So paying by credit card, you know, like Amazon's not going to send us an invoice.
Sure.
We're going to have to pay at the time of purchase. So it's more of those kinds of bigger transactions like that. But, you know, the fact that the county charges fees if somebody wants to pay us by credit card, I think at some point those days are that's gonna shift, because it's just gonna become a cost of doing business. Everyone wants to use electronic payment, and, you know, I think at some point we just, you know,
No,
we
and
want to
even-
get the payment quicker. If we can get it quicker, that is better too, so. A discussion for another day, I
Sure.
think, you know, how
No,
we
it
want
is.
to.
No, but also, you know, I found that in using credit cards, sometimes it used to be more of a benefit to use, but this swing is changing, that places are starting to charge for the use of those cards. And also, they're offering a cash or check discount, and it's more than what the reward is from using the card.
Yeah,
that's
so we
something
don't,
need to
don't
watch.
pay fees, we won't use the card if we're gonna incur fees to use the card. So
Sure.
I guess maybe that's the question.
That's the question, yes.
Yeah,
And so,
so we would.
we have to just watch that, because that's changes too from,
Correct. So we have, our current policy is for electronic payment. So all vendors have to choose between being paid by credit card or direct deposit. So we have a limited number of circumstances where we issue paper checks anymore. So whether, it's still been either way, if they pay by credit card or direct deposit,
sure.
that's our goal. But yeah, we don't use the credit card when we're gonna incur fees for paying by credit card.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the purchasing procedures? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, resolution number 14 is a proposed resolution authorizing a 2025 levy of participants' share of Chautauqua County self-insurance plan workers' compensation costs.
Yes, this would be the levy, as we kind of discussed in admin services earlier this year, for the levy for the workers' compensation rate based on the formula. And Kenny could add some on the formula or questions if you had about the rates for any of the individual municipalities included in the resolution.
Sorry, I didn't know this was next, but yeah.
Any big changes, or are they pretty much,
No, we kept assessments relatively flat. We were able to do that this year, so that's a good thing too. Claims have been, pretty steady, so we didn't see any need to increase the plan cost for next year.
everyone that's participating's been happy with moving forward for the most part?
Yes, I haven't heard any concerns in terms of how, since we changed how
Sure.
the assessments are calculated.
Mr. Chairman, and in total, the participant share has gone down from last year, so I would hazard to guess that any of the participants that had a private insurance program, they would not see a decrease next year, whereas our participants will see a decrease, the majority of them, not everyone.
Yeah, depending on their claims experience or,
Right.
significant change one way or another, so.
Well, and the formula is more correct this time, so, if you have claimants and claims, and that's something that might affect your rate, but at the end of the day, the preventative things to help mitigate some of those things is important. It's just safety training and that sort of thing but, sometimes accidents happen though, no matter what. So,
Yeah.
other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We're gonna move 15 down to the bottom, so we're gonna skip that one for now and go to 16, which is amend the 2024 budget for probation department for DCJS pretrial service award.
Hello, Sam.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Tobin Disborough, Deputy Director, Chautauqua County Probation, here for Gilbert Taylor. We are respectfully requesting that you approve this resolution to increase our appropriation account by $43,000, $43,34, and increase our revenue account $43,000, $43,34. This is in order to purchase a vehicle for the county.
Yeah, this is funded from the probation, received a pretrial service award in the amount of $468,020. Included in that budget that the county submitted as a potential use of that funds was a vehicle and also the maintenance of the vehicle. So basically going into next year, we are deferring some of this funding for use in the 2025 and possibly 26 budget. Part of this grant covers the maintenance, tires, et cetera, on a vehicle owned by the county as well.
Questions, comments? This department, it's gonna be a flat-out purchase, so the department will own the vehicle?
That is correct.
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
They'll answer the questions.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You have a
Thank
new
you.
vehicle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution, number 17, is to amend the 2024 budget for office of the sheriff.
Good morning, Jim Quattrone from Sheriff's Office.
Riley Emma, Fiscal Supervisor. The budget we have in front of you today is to amend the 2024 budget for the offices of the sheriff and the grants department. We are expecting our revenue in New York State aid to go up $86,778. New York State aid for the gift grant, $6,302. And our federal aid drug control programs to go up $127,577 for a total of $220,657. So we are looking to increase our appropriation accounts under contractual $220,657.
Budget neutral.
Yes, it is budget neutral. This is all grant funds.
I'm sure you have no problem spending the extra money that they give us.
We'll put it in an account for a rainy day.
Rainy day. It's always good when the grants go up because costs go up at the end of the day. So if these stay idle, it means that we're spending more of our local share to cover the same service unless you just not do it anymore. And that isn't any good. So good that the funds keep rising with the rising costs. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is 18, authorized agreement with Clymer Central School District for School Resource Officer.
So this resolution is to add it's actually technically a special patrol officer versus a school resource officer. Really, the only difference is that they are part-time. The state allowed us a few years back to appoint somebody who has been a retired law enforcement or retired corrections officer into this position. So it's an hourly rate. Resolution is for September 1st of 2024 to December 31st, 2024. And then the remainder of the school year will be in the 2025 budget. But we are asking to increase the appropriation by $25,853 and increase revenue by $25,853. Yeah. I did also misspeak yesterday in the public safety. We have 8 school resource officers, but 7 school districts, because BOCES has 2 school resource officers, one at Maple Street, and then one that is split between the Fredonia BOCES and Asheville BOCES.
And how many school districts? Is there 18 school districts? Is it?
Yes.
18? And there, a couple of them have other officers in place, not from the sheriff's office, right? So
Correct. Some of the school districts like Casadega, Faulkner, they have what they call basically it's similar to the special patrol officer, but they are hired by the school themselves and work for the school district. Southwestern Jamestown has their Jamestown Police Department does a SRO, but they also have what they call the Red Shirt program there. And then Southwestern has Ellicott Police Department.
So really, with those numbers, there's only a few districts that do not have a resource officer at this time.
There are a few that do not have. They have various forms of security at the different schools.
Yep.
So.
Well, and my point is you know, it's an expense to the district that they incur, but it's important enough that most of them have, and I'm sure that they do have other securities, and you do stop and see them from time to time also. But
correct.
It is a change from what was in the schools 10 years ago or 15. You didn't have all those officers in those schools 15 years ago.
It's gone through cycles. I believe in the late 90s, early 2000s, the federal government paid for the school resource officers. That has been done away with. There's been some talk statewide to make it mandatory that they're school resource officers, but it appears that those would likely be unfunded mandates, so I'm not sure where that's going to go.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 19, proposed resolution to amend the 2024 budget to implement the Outward Mindset project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, this is an ARPA project that we are requesting for training for our supervisors within the Patrol and Corrections Division in the Outward Leadership Program. And so we're asking to increase the appropriation by $90,419 and increase the revenue utilizing ARPA funds to $90,419.
Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Number 20, amend Chautauqua County Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services 2024 budget to include New York State rental supplement program allocations.
Good morning, Sam Zafuto, Deputy Director of Finance again. This is to amend the 2024 budget for social services. This is for the rental supplemental program. At the time that we created the budget last year, which I was heavily involved with, the one thing we had thought is this program ended on 3/31 this year, and it was a one-time kind of shot in the arm funding. Obviously, we have since found out that this allocation continued in April, so this is just to put a proration of the expense and revenue in, and then the idea would be, obviously, 2 years in a row, that this is probably a program that they're going to be funding going forward.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next resolution is number 21. It's reallocating salary grade for case manager, health department.
Good morning, Lacey Wilson, Public Health Director. So I'm actually here in regards to the reallocation resolution to request that you'd consider tabling this resolution for this committee meeting. Dr. Falk and I, in consultation with Deb Mikowski, the HR Director, have thought that this would just be a great time to reevaluate the reallocation request. Just in regards to the budget work that we've been doing, and we feel like we could come with a more comprehensive review of that, before we throw something out at this time.
Okay. Is there a motion to table?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to table this resolution as it was tabled in Administrative Services.
Second. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll take resolution number 15, which is the financial management policy for the County of Chautauqua.
Thank you.
Kitty Crow, Director of Finance.
Jen Swan, Budget Director.
So, as we discussed last month, we talked about a few ideas in updating the financial management policy. So I've provided a track change version so you can see what is being proposed, and certainly if the committee wishes to make amendments to this, we can figure those out, but I'll walk you through the changes as they're included in here. So I guess on page 3 is where some of the changes begin, mostly regarding to fund balances. So under unobligated fund balance, the second paragraph, I guess third paragraph down on the page, we talked about making the change that we would present the fund balance as a percentage of expenditures rather than revenues, as we've done in the past. This is more consistent with how many other counties do it. So the proposed changes, maintain the fund balance not less than 5% and not more than 15% of adopted appropriations as per the most recent audited financial statements compared with the current year's adopted budget. including transfers, with a target of 12.5%. So just some things to consider here, like there were 1 or 2 other counties that did have a target in there. I know the county executive and, has stated, a few times that around 12% has been his goal. So that we have in here 12.5% for your consideration. The next changes.
Kitty, if I can interrupt you
sure.
there. I'm not sure I understand what you're proposing here. In particular, the words "compared with the current year's adopted budget" is what confuses me. I can understand that we're gonna set the minimum and maximum, as per the audited financial statements, but I don't understand what the phraseology is to compare it to the current adopted budget in addition.
So it would be the current year's adopted budget. Trying to remember how I had the calculation, but the fund balance would be fund balance of adopted so whatever the fund balance is per the last year's audited financial statement. So in this case, it would be 2023, the ending fund balance of 2023 compared to the 2024's, the adopted expenditures of that year.
Okay, so what you're proposing is it's relative to the fund balance of the audited financial statements, not the adopted appropriations of the audited financial statements.
Yeah, we can reword this. The intent is so that, the final fund balance for the audited year would be a calculation of the appropriations and the ending fund balance for the actual appropriations.
Yes.
So maybe it needs to be changed to of actual appropriations.
Actual appropriations of the adopted budget.
Well,
and-
I would recommend actual appropriations per the most recent audited financial statements compared with, because you're gonna have the calculation of the audited year, and then you're gonna have the calculation for the next year. So.
Okay, you need to clarify that then.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The next paragraph is language where there would be some language regarding how much fund balance could be utilized, or how it would be used. So the intent would be to limit the use to address unanticipated non-recurring needs or unanticipated future obligations, and stating that it should not normally be applied to recurring annual operating expenses. Any questions on that? The next section is regarding how much fund balance may be considered to be used at one time. So a drawdown of more than 10% of fund balance in any given year may be considered for a declared state of emergency or a 20% or greater reduction in any major revenue stream. This is proposed just in terms of trying to protect just a huge amount, use of a sizable amount of fund balance to protect from like a one-time, other than when we have a state of emergency, or let's just say sales tax has dramatically dropped, more than 20%. That would be a justifiable use of using more than we might like in terms of what percentage of the fund balance that we have on hand. Let's see, further down. Talks about what we do in the event that unobligated fund balances exceed 15%, and this is kind of where the conversation started last month, we didn't really have too much language in there as what we do when we're over or under our range. So in the event that we exceed 15% of adopted budget appropriations, including transfers, the excess may be utilized for any lawful purpose approved by the county legislature. And then the additional language is inserted here, including but not limited to the funding of debt that has reached its redemption date, the funding of authorized but unissued debt, funding of one-time expenditures, or the startup of expenditures for new programs. So all of that inserted language is similar to several other policies of other counties. And then I struck that last sentence there. Any questions on that?
I think it's, the intent there is to just provide some language and direction for
What we do and some
Yeah,
ideas. It's
sure.
not binding that we have to use it for those things, but because we do still include the language of for any lawful purpose.
looks pretty fair.
Down at the bottom of the page is just deleting some obsolete language. So it just starts out with a 5-year general fund budget projection, etc. And the next page, again, that was redundant language because that was when we last had this, we had for a certain period of time, it would be one way, and then effective another date, the calculation of the earnings, interest earnings applied to would be different effective another date. So I just, again, that was the elimination of obsolete language. Down at the bottom of the page, I'm proposing to strike paragraph D. The tax stabilization fund, which is a legal reserve, but it does have very strict rules on use. And now, and since the tax cap has been implemented, it makes it even harder if we were to put any funds. And this is not to say that we couldn't put something in a tax stabilization fund in the future, but we don't have any reserve for tax stabilization right now. So I'm proposing to strike that language because it's not something that we have if we want to contemplate it in the future. But for example, after the tax cap was implemented, which is, the tax cap is, we had like $100,000 in a reserve for tax stabilization. And the only way you can get at that money is if taxes are going up more than 2%. So it was kind of contradictory in terms of when we would want to use that is to keep taxes under 2%, but yet we couldn't use it unless they were going up more than, like, I think actually you have to go up maybe 3% or something. But it's very difficult to use it now that we have a tax cap in place. So I just proposed to strike that language. The rest of the changes here, we're just renumbering the remaining paragraphs.
Does anyone have questions, comments?
Kitty, if you could take us back to the policies where most of the changes were made. In the last section that you're proposing to amend, which is regarding the excess, utilization of the excess.
Mm-hmm.
It starts out as saying, including but not limiting to the funding of debt that has reached its redemption date. I assume you're referring to short-term borrowings there?
No, it means that if we have, like some of our bonds are, may be callable, not all bonds we can pay down early.
Right.
So there may be a date, a redemption date that is reached, and then we can pay down the remaining debt. So it would be regarding existing debt
Okay,
that we
so
can pay down.
you're referring to paying down long-term debt when it is possible for us to pay it down.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Just for clarification, whether the wording changed or how it was before, this is basically saying that we can't use fund balance to reduce taxes. Is that correct?
No, I don't think it's saying that. I think it's saying when it's appropriate to use fund balance. The main concept being we don't want to use fund balance for recurring expenditures. So you might use fund balance for a one-time expense, and that is directly keeping taxes lower because we're not raising taxes for that one-time expense in that one-time year.
We always have a conversation that, well, not always, but budget time comes along, and why don't we take it from 3%, 3-cent decrease to a 5-cent if we just apply $300,000 worth of fund balance to the, to the overall.
I would say this is not prohibiting you from doing that. It's giving you, it's not binding language in here.
Right.
It's recommending how the fund balance should be used.
But
And
if we used it for operating budget, we're using it for recurring expenses, right? So it's sort of not the right.
so let's,
use of
as an example, like we always have equipment every year in the budget. So equipment, maybe there's one year that there's a big piece of equipment that we need to purchase. We're not going to purchase it every year. Or I'll give another example. In the 2024 budget, we utilize fund balance to offset the bonuses that were in 2 of our CBAs. And that being considered a one-time expense because it's that the structure of that language in those CBAs was we weren't adding onto the base salary. These were bonuses paid on under certain circumstances during the years of those contractual agreements. So it's not going to be recurring past the expiration of those CBAs.
So when we get into that discussion, when one of our fellow legislators says, let's throw this money out, or not throw it out, that sounds, we, in our wording, would need to be more let's pay for the dump truck with it.
We'd rather
than just throwing it.
Correct. We'd
towards
rather
the-
align
That's
it with one-time expenditures. So if we're going to utilize fund balance in the budget to offset operating costs, if those operating costs aren't considered to be a one-time situation, or it might be a one-time also last year in this year's budget, Medicaid, every so often we have a 53rd week in the calendar year, and that means one extra Medicaid payment of $500,000. So in sometimes we've used fund balance for that one-time, type of payment that comes up every few years.
I'm just preparing myself for.
But I think the argument would be if somebody was suggesting to use fund balance just to lower taxes, I would myself would like to respond to say, well, that's inconsistent with our policy. It's not that we can't do it, but it would be inconsistent with our policy.
And if we do it, we should be specific as to where that money's.
What it's being,
Going to
applied to,
Okay.
yeah.
Ideally.
Got it.
And typically we do, and I think one thing that is harder to track are the instances is that we're anticipating using fund balance of the unknowns and, some of our best guesses. And particularly in the mental hygiene department, when we're guessing of how much we're gonna spend on paying for services that we require for inmates that need different treatments that are court ordered. It could be, we don't know those expenses, and we've utilized fund balance through that, and we anticipate probably using fund balance when we make the budget, but we don't know what that amount is. So there's other areas that we've utilized fund balance throughout the year. You know, knowing that we would probably use it at budget time too. So some of those are.
Yeah, and
not-
I get
not
that. I'm
necessarily tracked
referring
as easily, but-
more to the annual question of,
Sure.
or recommendation of using a few $100,000 or $1 million to lower taxes. And we need to be more specific than just lower. I mean, the ultimate goal is to keep taxes as low as possible at all times, but it kind of gets rid of just the idea of throwing $1 million or $500,000 at our budget to make it better. We need to be specific in our improvements.
And Bob, to that point, each year when we're presented with a tentative budget, the finance department details out how much fund balance is being appropriated in that tentative budget. So it's not like we can't say, point to the tentative budget and point to the detail that that appropriation of fund balance is being used for.
Right. And I realize that that's usually indicated in the presentation of the budget, but
Yep.
I've been here long enough that I think every year it's been brought up. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm a little more prepared to understand why we can or cannot go with the request of the individual who might ask or present the option. Thank you.
I do have proposed amendment to revise the wording in that first paragraph.
Okay.
So it would read, the county shall strive to maintain unobligated fund balance of not less than 5 and not more than 15% of general fund budgeted appropriations, then striking the words as per the most recent audited financial statements compared with the current year's adopted budget. So strike from as per through current year's adopted budget and keep including transfers with a target of 12.5%. So I'll read that again. Shall strive to maintain an obligated fund balance of not less than 5% and not more than 15% of general fund budgeted appropriations, including interfund transfers, with a target of 12.5%.
I like that a lot more.
Okay, me too.
Make a motion to amend that? I'll make a motion to
Sure.
amend it as per what Kitty just said.
Have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Any other comments or questions on the amended version? Before we made that, I was thinking of any others that we wanted to amend, but I think for the most part, everything was pretty good. I want to thank you for your work in preparing this after our discussion last month and taking the comments and notes from that meeting to put into this for this month so that we can consider it for consider it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to also compliment the budget director and the finance director for their work in proposing these amendments to the policy. And I would also like to, while we're on the subject, point out that This revision makes clear that the purpose of the fund balance is to address unanticipated, non-recurring needs, or, and I'm going to underline this, unanticipated future obligations. So that's the reason that we have a fund balance, is for unanticipated future obligations or changes that occur in the future. So when I hear people tell us that the fund balance is too high, it's a question of too high relative to what, not that we don't need a fund balance, because we definitely do need an appropriate fund balance. Thank you for allowing me to get on my soapbox.
And I'll just add to that, I like the target of 12.5 rather than just having the range. I think it's good to have that target.
Well, and like my future earlier comment, sorry, Bob, today is, any project that I've ever been part of has never, it rarely goes under budget. And so the need for the fund balance is important. And, it's when you don't have it and need it that you wish that you had more. So I think being in a position that we can maintain a healthy fund balance is important, and it shows that we have a prudent financial team that is looking out for the best interests of the county, so you don't find yourself in a position of need or desire. So thank you.
Sure.
This time we will go into other, and I believe that you have some other business that you want to discuss.
You
I
can
gotta
leave.
go.
Bob was packed up and ready to go. I said, we're not done with you yet.
I'll let you walk through it, and I'll just chime in, but just as an FYI, that I updated that with Teresa.
Is there a PowerPoint?
Diana yesterday, and I got the safety net projected to do better, and I can explain that.
Okay. Okay. Jen Swan, Budget Director.
Kitty Crow, Director of Finance.
What we wanted to walk through with you very quickly today is just a little bit of a snapshot year-to-date of our material variances to our current budget. So what we have is we have an increase in the safety net local share of roughly $1.5 million. It's based on current trends. Of course, that's subject to change, but that's where it's trending right now. Adjustment for uncollected.
Property tax.
Thank you. Property tax. There are additional delinquent notices that are being sent to spur collections, but that is currently at $3 million. So we're at a $3 million deficit essentially for uncollected property tax. The fly car program is running at a $650,000 deficit due to expense overruns and revenue shortfalls year to date. On the positive side, our salt budget, we're actually $400,000 under budget is where we're currently trending, obviously with last winter being so mild. So we're looking favorable there. Our vacancy savings, we are actually to the good in the amount of about $3 million because vacancies are actually trending higher than the 5% that was budgeted year to date. Last I knew, I believe it was right around 10%. So we're actually realizing an even greater savings than what was budgeted. And then conflict administration, we're actually running favorably in the amount of $385,000. So all in, we're at about a $1.365 million deficit is what we're projecting based on trends year to date.
Just wanted to add a couple additional comments. So I know committees last month, I believe, were provided some update on safety net. You know, we've been looking closely at those current projections, and while the safety net expenditures are trending $3+ million more than our current budget, our safety net repays, which is like revenue that comes back to us, are trending higher as well. So the net local share projected deficit is about $1.5 million right now versus a $3 million shortfall that we were initially projecting. So that projection has improved based on our repays that that are coming back to us. Also, with respect to sales tax, our most recent trends is what I'm projecting is that we will meet our budget, but I'm not projecting any particular surplus unless something dramatic changes between now and the end of the year. But like our bigger sales tax quarters are this quarter and next quarter. So, I'll be, as usual, keeping a close eye on each of our payments that will be coming in. So if something changes there, I can provide an update, but I expect to meet our budget, but not have any significant surplus at this time. Then now getting back to the fund balance, well, one is I know that the county executive or Jen will be working on a communication to department heads to keep an eye on discretionary spending and curb that where possible, knowing that we are facing a shortfall at this point. So if there's anything that the department heads can do to minimize any discretionary spending, that will be a communication going out to them. Should these figures, as you know, our current fund balance is at about 16% of, well, that's of revenues, a calculation, and I'll update our projection so you have a, based on the policy changes today. Should we end the year with 1.5 or even a $3 million deficit, we'll be just under the 15% range. So yeah, but that should be still close to what the expenditures are. But I'll calculate that. But my main point would be is that it would be something that we could weather, but of course we're going to do what we can to mitigate that impact to the fund balance.
A question specifically to the EMS shortfalls in the fly car systems. Every budget year I really question that particular line because I don't know if there's been a year we've met it. And it really has been challenging to me. And this last year I didn't like that number, but at some point I guess you have to choose one. And that, do you know any specifics into that area, or do we have any anticipated that? I know there's a delay in payment, but also are we running short on ambulance transfers? Are we why is it the fly car specific? One isn't overweighing the other, but it's an area that I know, again, I will question the amount that we will be proposing in the anticipated budget this year because I won't like it because we're at this position every year, and it really, I wish we would have a $200,000 overage, and then we can adjust to that. But any other?
Pierre has some, I think.
Mr. Chairman.
I gave Pierre a hard time because he was last year because.
Mr. Chairman, I share your concerns, and because I share your concerns, I have had numerous meetings with emergency services staff over the last couple of months, dissecting the 2024 budget in preparation for the 2025 budget. And what we discovered was that there were several miscalculations in the 2024 budget in terms of the reimbursement rates per funder, I mean insurance providers, Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, et cetera. There was also a large in projection of how many of the ambulance services would be funded by which funder, because what is reimbursed by Medicaid is substantially different than what is reimbursed by Medicare, which is substantially different. That's what is reimbursed by private insurers. So based upon the experience that we've had now, we identified the errors in the 2024 budget, And we have now presented, I assisted in the presentation of the 2025 budget numbers, which are much more accurately reflecting experience rather than projections.
I appreciate that work in the sense that my complaint always was the actuals versus what we were estimating every year and how we were coming up with that amount, because we were never meeting it.
Yes.
And every year I raised my concern because we failed to meet it every year, but continued to, and all I wanted was it to be correct. You know, if we were experiencing that, you know, if we did, you know, I wanted us to reflect what we anticipated in receiving as correctly as we can. And it sounds like we're hopefully gonna be doing that this year.
Well, I'm going to predict that what we see in the 2025 budget is going to be much more accurate. I'm also going to predict that it's going to be substantially more local share, because it will be correct.
Understood. And I didn't, I, at the time, the expenses were what it was, and I never was a proponent of the necessity of the program or its valor, but I just wanted the accounting of it to be correct in the sense of us realizing the local share portion, because we are supplementing it with the local share portion. I just want it to be correct.
Right. And I also will point out, or I guess predict, that what we will see in the 2025 budget is a realization that the ambulance transfer program on its own breaks even, maybe even makes a couple dollars. But it's the fly car program that requires a substantial amount of local share support. So the ambulance transfer program that we implemented a couple of years ago is paying its way.
And it's important that we had that breakdown, so I'm thankful that we chose to do so.
That was a lot of work.
But on that transport, that was some of the optimism of last year's
Correct.
talk.
And-
So
And that was the
we
optimism.
realized that that's a good thing.
Right, but the optimism was reflected in the projection of who the payer was and how much they were gonna pay, and those projections were inaccurate.
And to Dan's
Inaccurate
point,
again.
and to your point, we just wanna know what it's going to be.
Yeah. And I'd like to have an overage next year versus a shortfall
Yes.
of a significant amount.
How about on everything, not just
I was
the
just gonna
fire?
say, I'll take that for every department.
Yeah. But this one in particular, it's been how many years? And it's,
Well, we're hoping.
but we can't be too hopeful. We have to be correct.
Right.
Also wanted to mention with regard to a couple of these variances, another reason we wanted to update the committee is we do expect to be presenting a couple of budget amendments next month related to at least safety net. I don't know if fly car, we might need to do an amendment to increase those appropriations. So you may see some additional amendments next month related to the variances that we presented today.
Any other questions or comments for? Thank you, ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else under other today?
Got 2 more hours.
We didn't even make it to our break time yet. Jeez. Wow, we just.
Let's
Let's
take
see,
a
who's
break
not
for
here?
a
Oh.
month. I make a motion that we adjourn and take a break for a month before we reconvene.
I'll accept the first portion of the motion. And
I second the motion to adjourn.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming today and participating.
You have to turn in your old one.
Um,